Here is an original airplane horror story written in the style of Stephen King, with suspense, slow dread, and a terrifying twist. It's suitable for your YouTube channel. The No Sleep Zonette was supposed to be a short flight from Karachi to Islamabad, just under 2 hours in the air. Flight 237 was a late-night red-eye, and only half the seats were filled. The lights were dimmed, the cabin quiet except for the low hum of the engines. Most passengers slept. Few scrolled silently on their phones. Captain Imran was an experienced pilot, nearly 20 years in the air. But tonight, something felt off. The moment the plane crossed 10,000 feet, the sky turned pitch black. Not night dark, kink dark, like the stars had been erased. And then the turbulence started. It wasn't normal. It's the kind of shaking that makes your heart pound in your seatbelt. Feel useless. It came in sharp jerks, like something outside the plane was tugging on it, in seat 14A. A little girl named Nita looked out the window and whispered to her mother, "Amy, there's a man walking on the wing." Her mother didn't believe her until the lights in the cabin flickered. Then, one by one, passengers began to see something outside. A figure, barefoot, in a torn pilot's uniform, face pale as death, eyes glowing faintly blue. The intercom crackled. "This is your captain," a voice said, though it wasn't Captain Imran's voice. We're ... going back to the last place I flew. Years ago, Flight 237 had crashed in the same air corridor. It was buried in fog and never found again. The pilot had vanished with all souls on board. They said it was pilot error. But no one ever found the black box. Now, that same flight number was repeating its course, except this time something had returned. The ghost pilot, his name tag barely visible, Capt. Aziz, walked through the aisle. Not a soul moved. The plane grew colder. Breath turned visible. He pointed at each passenger and whispered, "You were not meant to leave the ground." The last thing Captain Imran saw before the radio cut out was the ghost sitting calmly in the co-pilot's seat, smiling, eyes glowing. Flight 237 never arrived in Islamabad. Radar lost it somewhere over the Salt Range. No wreckage was found, but once a month, air traffic control in Pakistan receives a ghost signal, a blip moving across the sky, calling itself Flight 237. They called it an accident, called it airspace interference. But 6 days after Flight 237 vanished, the Aviation Control Center in Islamabad received a call on an old analog emergency frequency. It was full of static. But a voice came through. "This is Captain Imran. We're still in the air. We can't land. He won't let us." That transmission never repeated, but it was real. The tower recorded it. And when the audio engineers slowed it down, there was a second voice, whispering underneath Imran's. A colder voice. "You're all mine now." Nita, the little girl from seat 14A, hadn't spoken in hours. Her eyes stared blankly ahead, mouth slightly open, whispering, "We're between days. Between days." He lives in the cloud between Tuesday and Wednesday. Passengers couldn't feel time anymore. Their watches froze. Phones wouldn't unlock. One man opened his phone to see the calendar. It read February 31st. A woman named Fariha, a flight attendant, noticed something horrifying. She had been serving drinks, checking on the terrified passengers. But every time she reached the back of the cabin, it started over again. She was stuck in a loop. Over and over, walking the aisle, asking, "Tea or coffee, sir?" Only this time, the people she was serving. Their faces started changing, rotting, burnt, half missing. One looked up and said, "We never left. We've been here since the first crashing the cockpit." Captain Imran finally noticed something strange. Behind a panel near the autopilot, there was a hatch that shouldn't exist. He opened it. A narrow, rusted ladder led downward into darkness impossible, since the plane's floor has no level below. But he climbed down, step by step, and found himself in a small room filled with hundreds of photographs. Each photo was of a different crew, same flight number. Same aircraft, but from different years. 1967, 1989, 2003. Every face looked terrified, Every frame ended the same way. The ghost of Captain Aziz, standing among the crew. Smiling satellite images picked up a plane flying over the Arabian Sea, circling the same coordinates for days. But no flight plan matched. No aircraft was ever found. Some say Flight 237 is in a time loop. It's reliving its final descent forever. Others believe Captain Aziz is building a crew of the dead one flight at a time. But the scariest part, the ticket, just showed up online. One way, Karachi to Islamabad. Flight 237. Departure time, midnight. Price, free. Would you board it? A week after Flight 237 disappeared, a man was found wandering the outskirts of Shockwell, disoriented, barefoot, and dressed in a scorched airline uniform. He had no ID. He had no memory. He only repeated one sentence. We landed. But the ground was wrong. Doctors at the psychiatric ward called him Case 237, but the cleaning staff whispered another name, the returner. Strangest of all? The man's face matched Captain Aziz, the pilot who died decades ago in the original crash. Reality is cracking inside the hospital. Things started to change. Security cameras glitched every night at 12:37. AMTHA. Exact time Flight 237 lost contact. Doors opened by themselves. The same old emergency broadcast kept playing in the nurse's lounge. This is Flight 237 requesting permission to land. One nurse, Mariam, began dreaming of the plane every night. She sat in seat 14A. The air was cold. The aisle lights blinked. Red instead of white. Every time she tried to stand, something whispered in her ear, "Sit down. We haven't landed yet." She woke up screaming every night until one morning she didn't wake up at all. She was found lying in her bed, seatbelt strapped across her chest, like she'd died mid-dash flight. Airport workers at Islamabad International received an unmarked suitcase at the Lost and Found section. Tag: Flight 237. Date: April 12, 1976. That flight crashed 49 years ago? Inside the suitcase, a child's red shoe, an oxygen mask. Stained with blood, a photo of the passengers smiling, but all of them had no eyes. And behind the photo, scrawled in charcoal, "We brought something back." The door that won't stay shut, Case 237A, escaped his room. The cameras showed him walking into a wall, then vanishing.
Hours later,
the airport control tower received a call from an old radio unit. "This is Captain Aziz. We've landed."
How?
But the door won't open from the inside. That night, Mariam's little brother received a phone call. The number was unknown. But when he answered, he heard her voice. "I'm here. I made it off the plane, but you have to listen carefully. Don't ever fly at night, especially not Flight 237, because once he fills every seat, the plane will land. And so will he." It was a quiet morning at Skarju Airport, a place where no commercial flight was expected. But at 5:37 a.m., the radar tower picked up a ghost signature. Unscheduled landing request. Flight 237, Karachi to Islamabad. The operator laughed. That flight disappeared weeks ago. Then came the emergency transmission. "This is your captain speaking. Brace for arrival." The voice wasn't human. It echoed. Metallic, like something ancient was using a throat. It didn't fully understand. The plane appeared from the fog. Wheels hit the runway, but there was no heat signature, no tire smoke. Just a cold gust of air like winter had arrived early. As it rolled to a stop, the workers noticed. Windows were blacked out from the inside. The airline logo was faded, like the plane had aged 50 years in the sky. Every step toward the fuselage made their radios scream with static. Security was called. The cabin crew suited up in hazmat gear. They opened the door and found passengers sitting perfectly still, seatbelts fastened, eyes wide open, frozen in horror. Some had no skin. Some had melted into the seats. Some were whispering prayers in languages that don't exist anymore. And in the cockpit, Captain Imran sat dead at the controls. But beside him, Captain Aziz smiled. He whispered, "Every seat is full. We can land now." Investigators pulled the black box flight recorder. They expected technical logs. But what they heard was different. a voice repeating over and over, "There is no sky, it's only the in-between." He flies in circles until the world forgets. The passengers were only keys. The real cargo was him. Skarju Airport was sealed off within the hour, but it was too late. 3 workers started hearing static in their ears. 2 more were found trying to climb into the engines, whispering, "I must return. I wasn't meant to leave." A week later, a new flight appeared online. Flight 237, destination unknown. Departure time, when the sky sleeps. It's free. In a small village near the airport, Nita, the girl from seat 14A, was found. Alive, she hadn't aged. Still the same little girl. Same dress, same blank stare. When a rescue worker asked where she had been, she only said, "The plane landed, but not in your world." He opened the door. "Now, it's your turn to fly." Then he vanished. After Flight 237 landed at Skarju, strange events began across Pakistan and beyond. In Lahore, streetlights flicker every night at 12:37 a.m., and the same shadow walks beneath them. In Islamabad, dozens of people have reported seeing a plane in the sky that doesn't cast a shadow. In Karachi, a young boy disappeared, only to return 3 days later, whispering in a voice not his own, "We've begun boarding, ... Your world is next." Military teams secretly entered the sealed Flight 237 wreck. They wore cameras. Only one made it out. His footage was later leaked to a dark web channel. The cabin is empty. No bodies. No blood. Just rows of bones burned into the seats. A child's laugh echoes through the cabin. And at the very back, there is a door. That shouldn't exist. It opens to a sky made of black fire. Behind it, something stands. Not a man. Not a ghost. Something ancient. Made of mist, metal, and memory. It speaks in every language at once. "You gave me wings. Now I will give you silence." Governments call it a hoax. They scrub data. They shoot down any plane that appears with the call sign Flight 237. But people are disappearing. Some vanish midair, some while sleeping. Some while staring too long at the wrong patch of sky, and a new phenomenon appears. Worldwide, ghost airport structures not built by men, flickering into existence and vanishing before sunrise. Each one plays the same. Audio through broken speakers. Now boarding, the final flight. All souls welcome. The girl Nita, now held in a deep government facility, hasn't aged. She speaks only once every night at 12:37 a.m. Last night, she looked into the camera and said, "The plane was never meant to fly. It was meant to open. The sky. He was imprisoned between time. We were the keys. You open the lock. Run. There's nowhere left to land." One last recording came from the Flight 237 black box. It wasn't in any human voice. It simply said, "This was the final boarding call. Welcome to the last sky." Flight 237 has become urban legend. Pilots refuse to fly night routes over central Pakistan. ATC stations receive phantom beacons with no source. And every July 6th, exactly at 12:37 a.m., radar screens across the world show a blip moving too fast to be real. They call it the God plane. A new black suitcase was found in the Himalayas, 50 miles from the Flight 237 wreck site. Inside, a mirror that reflects clouds. Even when indoors, a note handwritten in blood, he's still flying, and now he wants a co-pilot. A photograph of Earth, taken from above the stratosphere, but from an angle no satellite ever captured. A secret team of spiritual researchers entered Flight 237 under permission from the World Paranormal Accord. Yes, that's a real thing now. They brought clairvoyance, drones, and a medium. The drone entered the cargo hold. Inside, a chamber, ancient. In design, full of black glyphs and strange light. In the center was a beating heart, suspended midair, wrapped in oxygen tubes. When the medium approached it, she collapsed and whispered, "This is not a plane. It's a body, and he is the soul. We're not passengers. We're organs, keeping him alive." A recovered audio file surfaced on the dark web, allegedly from the real Captain Aziz. Moments before his first crash in 1976, his last words were, "I didn't crash. I ascended. We all did. He needed us to fly through time to find the exit. When you land, the world ends, but he begins. Tell them to never, ever build another plane." A company called Aero Sky Aviation is building a prototype aircraft named Flight 238. No test pilots have returned. One engineer was found dead in his apartment, fingers fused into the shape of wings, on his wall. Written in jet fuel, he needed one more flight. Months after the events of Part 6, NASA's Deep Space Listening Array picked up an audio transmission from a part of the universe they labeled Sector Null, a black zone beyond known stars. The message? A single sentence on loop spoken. In a voice matching Captain Imran's, "He is boarding galaxies now." Signal wasn't bouncing from Earth, it was being sent to Earth, as if someone or something was calling home. In the Baluchistan desert, locals discovered a building that wasn't there yesterday. A full airport terminal, made of black glass, steel, and shifting shadows. There are no roads to it, no power lines, no reflection in mirrors. Yet every night lights turn on. Departures board lights up with one flight only. Flight 237 destination. Unknown gate. The Black Gate status. Now BORDNG people are gathering there. Wearing stitched uniforms, carving symbols of wings into their skin, calling themselves the chosen crew. They believe Flight 237 wasn't an accident. It was a prophecy. Their leader, a woman who claims to be Nita, now fully grown, but unchanged, with the same child's voice, she speaks at midnight to her followers. "He was trapped in the sky, you freed him. Now we must take him to the stars." CCTV footage from airports around the world now shows brief flickers of impossible passengers. Men with oxygen masks melted into their faces, women whose hair flows upward. Like in Zero Gravity, a child holding a burned teddy bear that speaks in static hall, walking calmly into gates that don't exist. All holding Flight 237 boarding passes, buried deep beneath the ruins of the original 1976 crash. Investigators found a cockpit voice recorder, but not one that matched any known aircraft. It played one phrase in reverse. "The sky is a lock. The plane is the key. You opened it," and then an address. In coordinates, somewhere in Antarctica, satellite drones sent to the location vanished. But one final image transmitted back, an enormous wing, frozen in ice, not built by human hands. There were never 237 flights, just one plane, flying again and again, until the last soul is claimed, and now only one seat remains. The skies are silent. No planes fly anymore. Every commercial airline shut down after too many planes went. Missing, the world has changed. Cold fog covers cities that once sparkled. People hear whispers in jet engines parked in graveyards. And those who stare into the clouds for too long never look away again. The world is waiting for something. We all feel it, like the sky is breathing. At exactly midnight on July 6th, a global alert was sent to every phone on Earth. No source. No trace. Just a message. Final boarding call. Flight 237 seat 238 reserved. Passenger, you, in the middle of the Arabian Sea. An island rose from the waves overnight. On it stood a single structure, a rusted airport terminal shaped like a wing. Wrapped in bone, one man went in. His name, Rehan Malik, an ex-pilot, whose son vanished on Flight 237. He carried one thing, journal written by Nita. Her last entry, he needs the last passenger to complete the body. When it is whole, he becomes the sky. Rehan entered the fuselage empty. Every seat was filled with ash. Each window showed not clouds, but stars collapsing, burning backwards in time. The cockpit door was open. Inside sat a being of light and shadow, with 1,000 faces whispering in unison. "You are the last. Sit. Complete the circle. Then I will sleep." Rehan did not scream. He sat in seat 238, next to the child version of his son, smiling frozen. whispering, "Thank you for bringing him home." The engines hummed, the lights dimmed, and the plane vanished one final time. Since that night, skies have gone clear, no clouds,
Ow.
no storms. Just stillness. People report dreaming of strange things. A plane flying through a field of stars. A pilot with no face smiling gently. A cabin full of peaceful souls. Humming softly, they say, "It's quiet now." They say Flight 237 has finished its journey, and above the world, etched faintly in the sky, is a line of glowing text. The sky is free again.